Hi there, welcome to the Bridge podcast, sharing with you top tips and advice from companies. I'm Agnes, and in today's episode, we have a special guest, Julian, who is the head of digital marketing at Archetype. Archetype is a global marketing agency that helps brands get heard by building magnetic brands that stick. Julian heads the digital and content team at Archetype and has worked with multiple big brands like Lenovo to Cisco through his 13-year career in digital marketing. Today, we'll be discussing a bit more about the current digital marketing landscape to his career journey in digital marketing, what it takes to be an exceptional digital marketer. So be sure to listen all the way through. Hi, Julian. How are you?
Good. Pleasure to be here with you guys.
Yeah, very glad to have you as a guest as well. So I'm really excited to speak to you as you've been in the digital marketing field for more than a decade already. So a lot must have changed since. Can you?
Totally. Yeah.
To get started, can you tell us a bit more about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Well, I started working in end of 2010, and actually, interestingly, my career sort of evolved along with the whole marketing landscape. So I think if I look back to when I first started, marketing communications was probably a bit more fragmented. And what I mean by that is the fact that people were in more specialized roles, right? Where you would have field marketing, you would have digital marketing, you might have business marketing, and even in the area of comms, there could be people with very specialist roles like analyst relations, public relations, influencer management, etc., etc. And the big shift that I've seen over the last 10 years or so is that roles have become more hybrid in nature. And this is something that, as an agency, we're also seeing with our clients. So when you speak to a client today, and they're going to tell you that, I was hired for one role, but I'm doing 3 roles. Right? This is my official job title, but my job description isn't really that. It doesn't match the job title. And we believe that this is because of, in a way, the nature of how the industry has evolved, right? So digital has sort of become like a big factor that has sort of brought a lot of roles together. We are seeing that clients need to be adept in, for example, right? If you're doing marketing, the fact today is that marketing is responsible for driving a lot of sales, a lot of demand. So you might be a marketer, but you're going to have some kind of KPI, or you're going to have some kind of role to deliver, for example, leads to the business, right? And that's just an example of what I mean by how boundaries are sort of blurring and the nature of work is becoming more broad. So that's a big shift that I think a lot of people have to deal with today. And a lot of this shift is being caused by the fact that digital is making direct access from a brand to its customers easier, which means that, the way brands look at it is that, there's so much more that I can do with my customers now that I have direct access because of digital marketing. So why not you as a digital marketer do more? Why can't you do more? That kind of thing. So the roles are becoming less specialist, but it doesn't mean that the specialisms are disappearing. It just means that I think the requirement is that marketers and comms people have to become sort of like a jack of more trades, not all trades, but more trades. Yeah.
I see. So you would have to straddle a bit more, like a bit of sales, a bit of marketing. You need to know a bit of everything, right? From PR and so on.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a lot of conversations that I have with clients today. So it can be a marketing discussion, but we have to bring in, for example, the sales funnel. We have to bring in how are we managing, for example, the company's leads, how are we scoring them, and it sort of, there's a lot of transitions that happen, right, when you have a marketing discussion.
I see. Yeah. So how would a digital marketer, right, like understand these things? Like right now, like digital marketing, to me, there's already so many pillars, from content marketing to like performance marketing, right, where you have to like optimize your ad budget, Yeah. So how do you keep up with all these things? Are there any resources?
I think that, or at least for me personally, LinkedIn Learning is a platform that I actually use quite a lot. So on LinkedIn Learning, there's a lot of you sort of have to subscribe to the premium subscription on LinkedIn, but there are a lot of like good courses once you subscribe to LinkedIn Learning on various aspects of digital marketing, such as from the content marketing part to the data analytics part, right? So that's, I think, one way that you sort of keep up and learn. The other area that I think is sort of helpful to keep in touch with, for example, what's happening in the industry and the trends out there, is actually sometimes by doing the work itself. So I think being an agency, you're sort of blessed, I would say, to have to sort of deal with these things on behalf of clients, right? Okay, so clients will sort of ask you to like, okay, can you give me, for example, help me run this campaign and achieve these kind of metrics? And more often than not, briefs are blank slate. And because briefs are blank slate, you sort of have to start thinking very broadly around how you bring together all the various elements of what's possible. And then sometimes you might discover new elements as part of that journey of exploration. So a lot of learning, I feel, is done on the job, right? As you do work with clients, as clients sort of challenge you to say, how can you tackle my brief in a different way? You're then forced to go get on your toes and find out how other brands or other marketers are sort of solving their problems. In the past, one of the places that I sort of used to get inspiration from is by sort of like attending events and conferences and seeing how people were doing things differently. That sort of died a bit during COVID, but now I sort of see that the events are coming back. So that's probably another good area to get inspiration from. Fourth area, I think, is really about networking. It's about meeting peers, talking to people in the industry, finding out what some of the things that they have done. And I guess I'm quite blessed to have a peer group of people, because I did an MBA in digital marketing. And that group of people who did the course with me are sort of like my peer group of co-learners whom I keep in touch with, and time to time go and catch up with them and see what they're doing. So that's another avenue for me to sort of just keep abreast of what's the latest in the industry.
Right. Yeah, because it's so fast moving, right? We started off with Facebook, and then to Instagram, and then to TikTok, and then yeah. Okay, that's a good sharing. So just to have a quick understanding, how did you get started in digital marketing? Because you graduated from NUS in a bachelor's in engineering. So yeah.
So interestingly, I think in my final year, that was when I figured out I didn't want to do engineering, because I was like, I fell out of love with my degree. And I think it was, interestingly, I did an internship in a startup. And because of that, you were sort of like forced to like do everything, right? And I think the exposure to doing marketing was what made me think, hey, this is an interesting area that I want to get in. And I'm not here to sell, like agency life or anything, but I feel like one of the best places to get exposure is really to join an agency. I think two areas are where you get. So one is you join an agency. Two is you probably join like a startup and sort of do digital marketing, because I feel that there are a lot of opportunities there. I know some people will be like, oh, I want to go for the try and tester. I join an MNC and get this kind of role. But I feel that, and this is no discredit to people who are in-house, but I feel that if you go in-house from the start of your career, you spend a lot of time doing stakeholder management, managing stakeholders, managing expectations, being in meetings. And that's the kind of stories that we hear from our clients. And also, I have colleagues who came in from an in-house role. You can see the difference in the environment, or at least they share a lot about the difference in environments. Whereas if you join an agency or you join a startup, you're sort of forced to be the hands and legs. And that's probably the best training ground to sort of learn digital marketing, because a lot of the learning I think that I have done is through trial and error and not through any means of formal education.
Right. It's really about experience, right? Really just trying out ideas, trying out things.
Yeah, correct. And the people in my team who have all sort of learned their trade this way as well, like through working, getting their hands dirty and learning through mistakes along the way. Yeah.
I see. Well, there's this I don't know whether it's a myth, but there's this thing about agencies, right? Where like we have some friends working in agencies and they say they see no light and they see no day. Yeah. Yeah. How true is that?
Well, I get off at 6 every day, so I get to see the sunset. But I think it's about the agency that you join. So it is true that there are people who work in agencies and they start at 8 o'clock and they leave the office at 10 o'clock at night. Right? They really see no night, see no day. And I think it's down to the philosophy of how the agency manages its staff. There are agencies where, they probably have a different kind of, for example, commercial model or billing model. And because of that, people are overworked as a result of that commercial model. And in contrast to that, there are agencies where people have very good work-life balance because they pursue a different, I guess, management philosophy, right? And those people in those agencies are probably like happier, and they are more. They get to go off on time, or 6:30, 7 o'clock, not too late, kind of thing. So I think it's about knowing what's in store for you when you join an agency. So that I guess, in short, right, is there's always a trade-off, right? For what we have colleagues who are from like other agencies, and they do say that they experience that whole work until 10 o'clock, burn the midnight oil kind of thing. And usually after 1-2 years, they say, I think I've had enough of this. I'm probably going to transition and move to a place that could potentially give me better work-life balance. Yeah. So I guess there are good agencies out there to work for. It's about picking the agency that you want, picking the agency that sort of represents your philosophies and your life values. But I think that said as well, what I've also, I guess, seen is that maybe agency life isn't for everyone. There are people who come in and they're really talented, they're really great at what they do, but for some reason the environment or the pace of work or the demands of working as a team just don't sort of fit well with them. And there are people who are way more suited to working in-house, right? So it's also about, I guess, that self-reflection and introspection to know what is best for you. But that's it. If it's your first job, sometimes it's quite hard to know because you don't know what you like and what you don't like until you tried it.
Yeah, I think that's good insight. Yeah, it's really about the self-reflection that each of us have, so that we know what kind of job we are more suited to, because for MNCs it's a bit more structured, I would think. Okay. Thanks for sharing. And maybe you can share how a typical day for you is like at Archetype.
There is no typical day, right? But I would say that a standard day, I think there's a standard day for maybe junior staff. Like, junior staff will come in and they'll probably have like reports to do in the morning, that kind of thing. But as you sort of progress to become more senior, the day becomes less standard. But what a typical day is like, I guess, for me, is you probably open the day with thinking about some client problems, right? And how you sort of want to solve those client problems. Throughout the day, it's a lot of working with your team to sort of solve those problems, because I guess at a senior level, you're not the only one doing the work, right? But you're sort of supposed to drive your team forward in doing the work together. So there's the planning maybe at the start of the day, but throughout the day, it's really about helping empowering and encouraging your team to work together to solve that problem with you. Yeah. So I think that's sort of a balance. And there's of course the other responsibilities like managing the business, new business, and running some other ancillary functions like product development, service development, and all that. Yeah.
I see. So it's a lot of communication involved with the team and solving client problems. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And a lot of mentoring, I would say, because at least for us, what we believe is that, some people have the philosophy that if I'm a senior person, if I do it, it's probably faster, right? But over here, I think we take the view that, yeah, that's probably true, but then you sort of lose out on the opportunity to coach people and help them become better versions of themselves. So there's a huge, I guess, coaching and mentoring element to my day. So it's in a very on the job capacity rather than a formal like sit down and mentor you one-on-one kind of capacity.
Okay, yeah, this sounds like a great culture. Yeah. What are some of the lessons that you have learned while in management or like in a leadership position where you had to lead like a team in Archetype or at Tex 100?
So many. I think the one that stands out the most to me in terms of leadership, right, is that if you can help people fulfill their goals, then you're likely to have more satisfied, less churn, and higher performing staff. So I think one of the things that we as an agency hold very dear is that the people are the priority, right? And because I think some agencies, the way they see is that clients are important, and sometimes sort of people, not say they're sacrificed, but sometimes people suffer a bit because of the priority of clients. And we always try and make sure that both sit in harmony with one another. But the way we look at it is that, if we take care of our people, they'll take care of us. And I know this is a cliche, right? You probably hear this from a lot of other brands as well, but it's really true that because tangibly, if you, I guess, take care of your people and not just take care meaning take care of their welfare, right? But I say take care of their growth, right? So you empower them to grow, you empower them to progress in their careers, you empower them to develop new skills. And that sometimes I feel is where you start to see the real benefits, because then these people become more dynamic team members. They become more willing to go the distance for the client. They become more creative, suggesting new ideas that you yourself didn't think of. And some of the things that we've even seen are that these people sort of go on to develop their own like set of skills that the agency never had because they were empowered to do so. And as a result, we sort of gain so much more as an agency. So investing in the development of the people, I think is always something that we try and keep front and center, because it's very easy to focus on doing the work, keeping the client happy, and then you forget about how you sort of coach and grow the people in your team. Because if you do that, right, technically there's so-called no loss because you're protecting your people, you are doing the work for them, you are pushing things for the client happy, but then the loss is in the growth area. And then sometimes I think we've seen like after 2 years, 3 years, people feel like, hey, I'm not growing, I'm happy here, but I don't feel like I'm developing. And sometimes when that comes up, you're like, you try and scramble, and sometimes it's too late. So I think always making sure that people are growing throughout their time here, I think is very important, and that's helped with employee retention.
I see. Yeah, I think it's a very underlooked area because you don't see the benefits like straight up, right? It's a long tail thing. Yeah. Okay. Like, are there any like specific mechanisms that you do to help people grow? Like, do you set like, for example, like one-on-ones very regularly, or have like certain coaching programs?
Oh yes. I think there's this whole what we call a growth ecosystem that we have in our agency. So it starts with a mentoring relationship. So all of us, every single person who comes into the agency has a mentor, an individual assigned mentor to you who is supposed to oversee your growth across the time that you are here, right? And what constitutes this whole program is that you have monthly meetups with your mentor to talk about how you are growing. But that growth or that growth, right, there is a growth plan that is charted against that as well. So when you first join, right, your mentor will sit down with you and they will say there are 3 areas or 4 areas or 5 areas that you need to grow in, right? And we will set down markers and timelines on achieving all these goals. And then every month you do a catch up and then you say, where are we with all of these markers and all of these goals? So there's a very clear growth plan for every person, which is one element of the growth ecosystem. Then, of course, the second element of the growth ecosystem is a training program, a general training program for all staff, right? Which focuses on things like soft skills, your mental health, and all that. And at the same time, each of us individually will work with our mentor to, I guess, look for ways to have individualized training that helps us move towards our goals as well. So even like, for example, for me, right, my mentor is working with me to help me get exposed to areas like, innovation management, change management, and all that, because that's sort of what I want to progress towards. Right. So there is there's a general training program, and then there's an individual, sort of individualized training to help people reach the kind of goals that they want to reach. So that's the second part of the growth ecosystem. And the third part of the growth ecosystem is through work. So unlike other agencies, we sort of don't split ourselves into practices. Right? So typically some agencies are like, I have a tech practice, healthcare practice, consumer practice. But over here, we work with a matrix structure. And because it's a matrix structure, each person has an opportunity to work on client accounts and client work that matches towards their growth areas as well. So that's a third area of the growth ecosystem where you work on, you do work that helps you get to where you want to be, the kind of work that you want to do. Yeah. So these 3 areas sort of combine together to help people with their growth here in the agency.
Yeah, it sounds very good. Like really listening to their goals and really assigning mentors so that they can be guided in the right direction. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So do you have any tips on how to deal with any difficult clients that you might have had in the past few years?
Yeah, I think for us, empathy, is one area that we say sometimes we don't empathize enough with the client, because I think it's very challenging in a client role. And I can say that even though I've not been in a client role, because I have worked on accounts where we sort of become the pseudo client ourselves. We're not seconded to the client organization, but we sort of operate like an in-house person. And that has sort of opened my eyes firsthand to some of the challenges that in-house people face. Colleagues that don't cooperate with you, people who might not understand the true nature of the work that you do and the kind of deadlines that you need and the kind of help that you need. So sometimes it comes down to having that kind of empathy for the client, which sort of then changes the difficulty of how you see the situation, or like, suddenly this client actually doesn't seem so difficult because there's actually all these other things happening around them. So that's one area, and I guess there's this saying that talks about sometimes the difficulty of the situation is defined by how you respond to it versus and that could change the kind of perception that you have. Yeah, so that's I guess my take on working with difficult clients. And of course, in your career, you will come across people who may be intentionally difficult and all that. And sometimes that's, I guess, just down to bad luck, right? But for us, we do consider that, if there are clients who are being intentionally difficult, or there are clients who are being intentionally toxic, then we will try to either work with the client to say, hey, you know what, there has to be mutual respect between the team and you, right? So if the team, sort of feel they can't work with you, then maybe we need to find a different account servicing person who can work better with you. And of course, we have taken steps to resign clients who were so difficult that it caused undue stress on the team, because it goes back to that principle of making sure we put our people first. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Understand. That's a good principle to abide by. Okay, let's dive deep into some of the digital marketing trends. I think you have shared a few of the digital marketing trends, right? Like how digital marketers need to be equipped with some of the different sales skills or PR skills. Yeah, but I think you also mentioned in like a marketing interactive previously about how interactive content will become an important part of marketing in the future. So maybe can you share a bit more about how anyone can implement interactive videos or content?
Oh, okay. I think it's okay. It doesn't sound that fancy, right? I know maybe the way it was phrased sounds very advanced, but the point I was trying to make in that article was right now a lot of content that is developed is in a way passive consumption, meaning you just read and then you probably like, okay, yeah, I learned something from this. But the rationale behind why I wanted to sort of push or angle for brands to develop interactive content, and that's something that we are pushing through with our clients as well, is the fact that whenever people interact with a web property of yours, they sort of leave behind data crumbs or data trails, right? That allow you to sort of understand better what this person's preferences and needs are. So from a brand perspective, it's not about, I guess, investing a huge amount of money to make every piece of content interactive, but it's about including small interactive bits that say allow people to hover or allow people to click, or it could be like a pop-up in the middle of an article that allows them to sort of see a data point or something like that, because those kind of small interactions do also indicate and inform a brand what an audience is interested in, right? And as a result, that allows you as a brand to make more informed decisions about your audience needs and how to sort of structure your marketing strategy moving forward.
Yeah. So it's really about trying to further understand your audience through interacting with them through those means.
Yeah, through how they interact, through sort of like making them interact with you so that you know what they want. Yeah.
I see. There's been this might be a bit off topic, but there's so much noise going around NFTs right now in the metaverse. How do you think these platforms or this technology will influence marketing?
I think my honest answer is I don't know yet. And I mean, there are a lot of articles I read already that predict, NFTs are going to be this, or the metaverse is going to be this, and all that. But my sense is that we're not 100% certain how these technologies are going to play out, right? So, for example, right, if we just look at NFTs right now, it seems, and I might be saying this from a slightly uninformed perspective, but it seems like the way people are going about NFTs is either to sort of use it to create collections or to create art, that kind of thing, right, as an application. And there could be more advanced ideas that come out from that. So at this point in time, I would say, although I don't know what the future could hold, I think there is potential there. It's whether or not we are able to sort of find a use case for that potential. So I guess the analogy is to look back to, say, for example, at that point in time when the iPhone came out, right? The iPhone itself wouldn't have succeeded without the app ecosystem, i.e. the applications that sort of allow it to become what it is today. And similarly for things like NFTs and the metaverse, it's about whether or not someone can, I think, find an innovative use case that can be applied to marketing. Because right now, what I can see from a marketing perspective, say in the metaverse, is that okay, brands are building like virtual worlds, or they're building virtual booths or virtual areas for people to hang out. But that's in a way not new, right? Second Life came out in 2008 and did pretty similar, that kind of thing. So the question is, if there is a trailblazer who can find that use case that makes it so compelling for people to want to enter the metaverse or buy NFTs or collect NFTs, then I think that's where we will start to see the applications start to spin off for marketing, and probably even beyond marketing itself.
I think right now it's still a bit new, so there's a lot of exploration going on for these technologies. Yeah,
and I think a lot of brands it's a case of that it's like scientific experimentation, right? There will be a lot of experiments, a lot will fail, but the one that sort of succeeds will become inspiration for the rest to follow and to innovate from there. That's always how innovation happens. Someone finds something good and then people build on it.
Yeah. Okay, thanks for sharing more about the marketing trends. So I'm sure that our listeners would like to know a bit more about any career advices that you might have to offer. So let's dive next into career tips. So you must have mentored many digital marketers in your career. Can you share a bit more about what makes a digital marketer stand out, or what makes someone an exceptional marketer?
I would say, to me, there are two things. Number one is an insatiable curiosity about the digital space. Right? People who are curious, want to learn, who don't have that mindset that, oh, I know all there is to know, or I'm happy with what I know and I can sort of keep using it and applying it. Because then you, I guess, don't learn and don't pick up skills, right? So I almost feel like a good way to check yourself is to ask every 2 years, like, hey, have you learned something new? Have you learned a new skill end to end? Right? So not just dabbled in it, but really mastered the whole thing end to end. And I think that kind of attribute will take you very far in terms of digital. So an example, right, is like, say, for example, I sort of look back at my own career as an example, where started out, learning, okay, how to do social. Then you learn how to do search marketing, display, how to do programmatic, how to do email marketing and CRM. And then lately I've been obsessed with okay, how to sort of build data dashboards, how to learn languages like SQL and Python in order to help with data analysis and all that. So there's a lot to learn in order to become what I guess I would define like a full stack marketer who has the skills from analysis to creativity to campaign execution to knowledge about platforms and all that. And truth be told, I think it's tough to learn everything, right? So you can't finish learning, so learn as much as you can, and that curiosity will take you far. That's one. And I think the second area that I've always emphasized to the people I mentor is to not just focus on marketing as something that you need to look at and learn. And what I mean by that is reflected a lot in a lot of what our clients say, because our clients say that the best agency teams that they work with are people who have knowledge in multiple domains. And those people are able to sort of bring that knowledge from multiple domains into the work that they do, right? Trying to think of an example, and I think the best one that I can think of for example, over the last year, I think a lot of people have sort of dive into investing and not day trading, but buying shares, stocks and all that, because they have time at home, right? And interestingly enough, this kind of even though you go and dabble in it, it forces you to sort of learn about, okay, what are the macroeconomic trends that are affecting the share price of some stocks in the sector that your clients are in. And that forces you to understand what are these driving forces, or maybe negative or positive forces that affect a company's share price and how they affect your client's business. And these are the things that you sort of bring back into your daily work with your client, because it allows you to have that a more intelligent discussion with the client around, I really understand your business. I can see the macroeconomic factors, and some of that will trickle down into the decision making that you are working on, even for campaigns with your clients. So to me, that's the second area. It's about broad learning beyond just the domain of marketing itself.
I see. That must be especially important for agency setting, because there's so many different clients that you handle.
Yeah, and I think it's also important for people who are in-house, because maybe even more important for people who are in-house, because you need to sort of have these kind of conversations with different functions, right? Finance, HR, ops, product development, and all that. So knowing your industry, knowing where the world is headed, knowing how the economy is being impacted is really, really important.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. Are there any words of advice and tips for anyone aspiring to be a digital marketer, or to just jump head into the world of digital marketing?
So for a fresh, someone who has never done it before and wants to start out, I think the one thing that sort of I see as a common attribute amongst people who have sort of done well in digital marketing, I mean, aside from what I talked about earlier about that curiosity and learning, is the people who are comfortable with a lot of uncertainty. Because what I've sort of absorbed from a lot of digital marketing campaigns is that there's no certainty in the kind of work that you do, right? And I think marketing is generally like that as well, where you can plan, you can say, these are all the things that we are going to map out, these are all the things that we're going to do. And there's always most of the time, there's always something unexpected that will crop up. So to be able to work around these uncertainties, these roadblocks, these kinks in the journey that crop up is a really important skill. And it's actually not even just a skill, but it's actually I would say it's a predisposition that you have, right? So that means that generally some people who are not comfortable with uncertainty, like, I want everything to be planned, I want to follow a schedule, I want everything to be lined up, and I want to do everything as planned, right? And there's some people who are very comfortable with like, let's sort of move forward and see how things go. So I think you kind of need that kind of a mindset in digital marketing, and it's very similar to sort of like starting and running your own business, where you know the goal, you might have an idea of the path, but you're willing to take detours, and you're willing to let yourself explore and led by the possibility of finding better ways to do things.
It's a lot of trial and error, A/B testing, right? It's all about analyzing. Yeah.
And yeah, it's true, because when we run campaigns, sometimes we find things that we didn't know before, and then if we don't adapt to the new circumstances and the new findings, then we're sort of shortchanging ourselves, we're shortchanging the client. So that ability to adapt and change as and when the need, or as and when the data tells you, yes, you need to change, is important.
Got it. Okay. Thanks so much for the sharing. And last but not least, where can people find you and learn more about you?
Well, you can reach me on LinkedIn, or you can come down to my place have a chat with me. Yeah.
Okay. At the Archetype office, or
yeah, at the Archetype office, 36 Prinsep Street.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Thanks for all the candid sharing and really the transparent sharing on the culture of Archetype, and also what it takes to be a good digital marketer. This brings us to the end of the episode. So thanks so much, Julian, for the delightful sharing on marketing and also your career journey. Do connect with Julian for more tips, and check out more on the Bitch podcast episodes for more tips and tricks to boost your career. Until then, this is Agnes, and see you in our next episode of the podcast next week.